Welcome back to EnvrioSummit 2020. I'm Michael York, your Master of Ceremonies. It's day 2, and we're glad you're here. Hey, you're busy environmental professionals all over the globe joining us here today, and we don't take that for granted. We've got another 35 amazing speakers lined up for you today. So I can't wait. Let's get right to it. Oh, but just one more thing. If you haven't already done so, this takes skills, so don't try this at home. But the Socio app, if you haven't already downloaded that, do that because it's a great way to follow the conference and all the speakers and even interact with the speakers, get copies of their presentations, whatever you like. But it's Socio, S-O-C-I-O. And then when they ask for your code, that's basically EnvrioSummit 2020. So, with all that out of the way, on with the show. Please welcome back Mr. Travis Bowman. Travis?
Well, here we are, day 2 of the EnvrioSummit, and as you know, this of course is a global summit, and so you've been hearing technologies from all over the world here in the morning presentations, and this morning we have several more lined up for you. But I am sitting here with Troy Chips, the CEO of North America for ICLCamp, the CEO of North America, and ICLCamp is one of our sponsors, not only with the Enviro workshops, but here a gold sponsor of the Global EnvrioSummit. And so I thought it'd be fun, just something different here in the morning time as people are getting their coffee. I don't know, it depends on where they are in the world, but they're getting their coffee and they're trying to, just kind of navigate the morning. And, but let's talk a little bit about ICLCamp. First off, when you see that name, the word, I know it's on your shirt there, kind of,
yes.
How do we say that again?
It's a tough word to say, I have to admit, but it's called ICLCamp.
ICLCamp.
ICLCamp. It's a family name. It's actually the 4th generation. We're a family-owned company. We've been in business since 1911.
So 1911, but it's also Royal ICLCamp. Talk to us about that.
It is Royal ICLCamp. Now, it actually, in 2011, we earned the designation of being a royal company. And it's something that after you've been in business for over 100 years, you have financial stability, you have so many employees, and there's a list of qualifications. And once you reach that, then you can earn the designation of being a royal company, similar to Royal KLM, Royal Shell. So yeah, Royal ICLCamp. And you have to be recertified all the time as well.
Oh, really?
So it's not just one time and it's done.
Really?
You have to continuously prove yourself.
And this is in the Netherlands, which is where Royal ICLCamp is headquartered and based. But now you guys have offices worldwide, I mean, really.
Yeah, we do have offices worldwide. We opened this office here in North America in 2015. We're located in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we use different dealers all throughout the world, and we have the different distributors all around as well. So our headquarters, like you said, is in Holland in the Netherlands. And then our office here in North America, and we're continuously growing our reach as well.
Cool, okay. So I know you guys have spoken at our workshops, whether we've been in South Africa or in China, all across Europe. I know Rucker has been one of our speakers. Hoek is the CEO. I haven't seen him at our workshops, but he's a busy guy. He's the CEO of all of the global operations. But talk to us a little bit about some of the equipment that you all provide, and maybe just the beginning roots of where the family started the business.
Yeah, so we started really like a lot of classic manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
We started as a blacksmith. And we still use that art today to make our soil augers. And that's how we started. We started more in the agricultural business, manufacturing soil augers. And we started selling those, and it just continuously improved and evolved over time to now, ICLCamp, we really manufacture equipment for soil and water. So from a hand auger all the way up to our drill rigs, the sonic drill rigs. And we also have different water quality instrumentation. We have water multi-parameter probes. We manufacture our own modems now. Wow. We just came out with some new products. Our newest product this year is a new peristaltic pump. So we're excited about that. We're continuously expanding our product and our reach.
What are some of the latest, I mean, you just talked about the newest product, but like maybe some of the cutting edge stuff that you guys are in? CPT, is that some of the data? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so we did start another part of ICLCAMP called ICLCAMP GeoPoint Solutions. That's where our CPT equipment is manufactured right now. And so we make our own CPT equipment, we make our own pushers, and we're releasing some new models this year and next year. So our own push vehicles, trucks, carriers, track carriers, things like that. CPT is a market that's really starting to grow in the United States. It's been in Europe for quite a while, but as the US continues to gain acceptance of that, the CPT is becoming more and more important all the time for soil profiling, investigations, and such.
Gotcha. Now, how about the drilling rigs? I mean, you all manufacture sonic rigs. Talk to us about sonic for the environmental professional. First off, I got to say, I dare say almost every environmental professional out there has used a hand auger. Probably the one that was developed 100 years ago by ICLCAMP. So that, if for somebody that doesn't realize that, really, frankly, the environmental industry was kind of founded, a foundational block is right here with ICLCAMP, I mean, truly. But as it's progressed through the years, talk to us about the rigs and why sonic is so important.
Yeah, sonic drilling has become a big part of our business and in the industry as well, in the environmental, the geotechnical, and now more recently the construction drilling as well for us. The sonic, the way that it works is we take some weights and we spin them at 9,000 RPM. When we spin them that fast and we take the energy and we put it on the drill pipe, and we're able to move that drill pipe up and down 150 times a second.
Wow.
It's amazing at how it works. And when it does that, it creates a sonic wave in our metal that releases, it causes liquefaction, and it causes the soil to release the friction around your drill string. So you can take very fast core samples, it's very fast, it's very efficient in the drilling as well.
Gotcha. So where's, like here in North America, for instance, obviously that's your focus here for ICLCAMP. Where are some of those rigs being deployed? Like in Canada, across Canada, I'm thinking of just the drilling up there. Is that where you see a lot of your rigs being used up there?
Yeah, our responsibility here in ICLCAMP North America is Canada, the US, and Mexico. And we do have quite a few rigs across Canada, and from Vancouver all the way over to Toronto. We also all the way down throughout the United States, from New York to Florida to California. So the rigs out there are used all over the United States. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Canada, the US.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to me about the future. Where do you see ICLCAMP going? I mean, if I guess you could project the next 5-10 years, some of the technologies. That's what I love about ICLCAMP is they're always looking at the future. Obviously, 100 years later, you all are still in business and bigger and stronger than you were when you started. So where do you see the next 10 years?
Our industry is changing all the time. And so we're continuously looking at ways that we can make our current products more efficient. We're looking at ways that we can help our clients solve their problems that they come up with. The new PFAS, we're looking at ways that we can come up with products to help in detection or in sampling that. So we're always looking at something new. We're looking at different drilling methods, from sonic to other types of potential solutions that we can provide. But we really do see that data is a big part of our business now. So we're looking at ways that we can deliver data to our customers. Maybe that's through a modem, maybe that's bringing in more of a solution, not just a product, but maybe we can be more of a solution provider and not just sell just the equipment.
Yeah, that's good. So things are changing, of course. Obviously, the whole reason we're sitting here talking virtually and people are watching it and we're not doing a traditional conference is because things are changing in the industry. But yet you all manufacture equipment that people typically want to touch and feel and see it and test it out. How do you do that in the midst of a pandemic?
Yeah, Travis, you're right. And this is something that we weren't prepared for it. I don't know if anybody was really prepared for this. I would have lost a lot of money thinking that, it was going to go on this long.
Going to Vegas, right?
Right, yeah.
Play those odds.
Yes. But, we've worked hard. We've worked hard in providing the right level of service for our customers. Our first concern has always been during this pandemic is our employees. We've worked hard in keeping our plant, our manufacturing. We've tried to do the social distancing. We have a lot of folks that are still working from home. They rotate, some come into the office, some stay out of the office. And so it's been a learning curve for us, but it has been a challenge to be able to get people to come and see your rigs, to come to demonstrations and that. So our focus has been to create more virtual marketing material through whether it's videos, whether it's Zoom calls, whether it's Teams. So that's where those are some of the ways that we are trying to make our changes now. But we're focusing on our customers as well. We know that if we can help deliver the right product for them, and that we can do it timely, that we provide the right service level, because when it comes down to it, we know that's where we have to focus. And we've expanded our warehouse. We've over doubled our warehouse size. We've expanded our office space. We're growing a lot, and we have a sufficient amount of inventory now to work with our customers, and we want to make sure that our customers have what they need. They trust us. When they buy equipment from us, we take it serious because we know that they're trusting that we're going to support them, that we're going to be able to deliver product to them if maybe their rig's down or something, that we're able to fix it. And so that's been a big focus for us. They trust us. When somebody partners with us, we want to deliver them the right product. We want to deliver them the state of the art. We want to make sure that they have the best in the industry, and that's what we're doing today.
Well, obviously we could sit here and talk all day long about all kinds of different technologies and the solving the global challenges. Matter of fact, I didn't mention you all have an office in Antarctica. I mean, what is going on in Antarctica that ICOCAM needs to have? I really think I should go visit this office. Have you visited the office in Antarctica?
No, I have not visited up there. It's way too cold.
It's a little too chilly.
Yes,
huh?
yes. I'm against that part of it, but
I'm guessing that it's like saving the penguins, right?
Everybody needs a sonic rig.
Exactly. Well, that's true. Even
penguin,
the penguins.
it doesn't matter.
A walrus. Well, I don't even. Do they have walruses in Antarctica? I don't.
Maybe Nemo.
Maybe Nemo. Nemo needs a good Joe rig.
I'm thinking of ways to market this. So,
that's right.
Yeah, marketing has changed.
Coming to a Disney film near you, right?
We probably won't get that in there, right?
That's right.
This is just talking now.
That's right. Well, what I did want to say was, even though we are just kind of having some fun, but we could talk all day long, but the reality is a picture says 1,000 words, so watch this clip a little bit more about ICOCAM.
ICOCAM started in 1911. They're based in Holland. They started out simply as a blacksmith shop. They started manufacturing an auger to help develop and map different parts of Holland. And now we're not just a blacksmith shop. Now we're really being pushed all the time by our customers, and listening to you folks out there. We're trying to push our people and our company. We're becoming more of a technology-driven company. We've been manufacturing the sonic drill rig since the 1990s. We've delivered over 600 now in the world. We have CPT equipment. It's becoming more and more popular in the United States, understanding slope stability, understanding how we can use it in remedial projects. Based on, we can go out now, we can take one of our small rigs out to your site, and we can do a CPT push, and we can deliver a soil profile to you within 25 minutes, a graph that you can use at that time. We want to deliver data right to you to make decisions. Maybe you're wondering if it's a tight clay. Maybe your contaminant isn't moving as fast as maybe in a different area, maybe in silt or in sands and gravels. So it helps you make decisions in that way. We want to make our customers successful. How do we make them successful? We give them the right equipment. We come alongside of them. We make sure they're successful in their customers' eyes. That's our focus, is how can we make our customers more successful? And how can we deliver them the product that will help them get there?
Well, we were down in Brazil in South America just a couple of years ago, and we were planning on being back again this year, actually going to Argentina and some other cities in Brazil. But unfortunately, just like, as you all know, around the world, the whole world came to a screeching halt here with the pandemic. But we were in São Paulo, and São Paulo is really the main hub when it comes to cleaning up pollution around, all really across South America, whether it's in Chile or the different countries. So if you're watching from South America, you probably are a bit familiar with some of what is going on, the different technologies. But we've asked James Henderson. James Henderson oversees all of South America's environmental affairs for a well-known company called DuPont. So pull out your pens. Again, download the program from whether it's Socio, if you're watching on the Socio, or right here on our website. Download our program. Make sure you're taking some notes as you listen to James Henderson. And he actually has a couple of co-authors with him. So strap on. Here's a really good presentation on the environmental challenges of Latin America.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Henderson. It's a pleasure to be with you today. It's a real honor. Thanks for the invitation to present to you. I want to thank Travis for this very ambitious title he suggested for our presentation, Latin America's Environmental Future. We hope to live up to the billing. I represent Latin America. We'll talk about that group in a few minutes. When we talk about Latin America, we always bring the voices in the region into the conversation. So I'm pleased to present my co-authors, co-presenters. They're also all members of Nicole Latin America. And Untitled Chapter is working by my side in Corteva. We manage remediation projects together. Maria Cristina also hails from Brazil, but she's based in Seattle. She's an engineer, scientist with CDM Smith. She'll talk about a really cool case study that we have in Brazil. And finally, we're pleased to welcome Luciana Ferreira. She works for Nicole Latin America and Ecos Institute. She is the acting executive secretary of Nicole Latin America. So we're speaking to you as a group. All of us work actively in Latin America. And before we get started, I wanted to make a comment about the title. We feel strongly that for us to know what our future is, we have to know where we've been. So we're going to present a series of case studies to you today, 2 from the past, 1 from the present, and then 2 from the future. Before we do that, though, Latin America is such a large region, culturally diverse, many countries, a lot of geography. So we thought that what we could do is set the stage for you before the case studies. And for that, Renata is going to show us a few overview slides. Renata?
Thank you, James. I would like to talk a little bit about the Latin America overview and also the consumption, the middle class consumption distribution, how that is changing and how that will affect our overview in Latin America. Over the years, the middle class consumption is changing. We had in 2000, most of the middle class consumption was done by United States, Europe, Japan, and Canada. That represented 75% of the consumption. And in 50 years from now, in 2050, this will represent 15% of the consumption. And countries that are now developing, such as India and China, there will be, it's estimated that they will consumption 54% of, it will represent 54% of the middle class consumption. And then that comes with a changing on the environmental perspective in the countries. Since countries developing, they have usually 95% of their waste released into the environmental. They have few people studying and getting degrees. They have a very vulnerable employment system. Authorities have a lot of difficulty to settle new standards and making people oblige to the new standards. So we have a lot of things to cover. But with the with the middle class consuming more, they usually consume in a not sustainable way, but that comes with a sustainable mind. They know that they have to be sustainable, and that's where Nicole Latin America enters, because we only see a part of the problem, and the idea of the Nicole in Latin America is to learn from our mistakes done in the environmental community in Europe, United States, and all the other countries, but then not having this problem here in Latin America. So learning from that and making sure we got to deal with these problems in a more sustainable and faster way, making sure that we don't get to do the same mistakes over and over again. So that's the idea. That's why we are presenting here with Nicole. In the next slide, I would like to show you a little bit of the overview of Latin America, just to show how big it is, because it's a region very large. We have 20 countries here with 569 million people and 2 dominant languages. The area of the regional, it's almost twice as the whole Europe. It's 19 million square kilometers. Europe is 10 million, so it's almost double the size. It's a very large region. But we have, due to that, we have a very different economic scenario in very different countries. Our GPD, that is the gross domestic product, it's 25% of the US. It's a lot of money. It's $5.2 trillion, but it's distributed in a very bad way. We still have a lot of poverty in the region, and 30% of the population it's poor, and 10% of that population it's below the poor limit. It's extremely poor. So that's 62 million people. So we do have the money, but we don't have the money distributed in a way that we can invest in environmental and the issues that we have. Another overview, just to make a clear point for you, it's, for instance, we have 31% of the fresh water in the world here in Latin America. I say here because I'm in Brazil. So here we have 31% of the planet's fresh water, but 1/3 of that is polluted, mostly due to the lack of sewage. But even though we have a lot of resources, we do have a lot of issues. Our waste generation is 12% of the world. It's a lot of waste. It's 160 million tons per year. So it's still a big problem here. The air here is also very polluted. We have a statistic for the World Health Organization saying that kids under 5 years live in areas with bad air quality. 75% to 98% of those kids live in areas with bad air quality, except for Uruguay. Uruguay, they have from 10 to 50% of the kids. It's still a really large number. So even though we have the money and we are developing as a region, we still have a few issues. So that's why James is going to show us 2 past cases that were dealt with. One that it's the present, and Marina and Luciana and Maria are going to show us the future, what we are trying to do to not make the same mistakes as we've been done for a long time. James, back to you.
Thank you. Great. Very well said. So there's a lot of promise in the region, but we have a lot of challenges, and we hope to illustrate that with our case studies. So we put together a virtual tour here. You'll see a plane that's going to fly through all of the stops on the way to the end of this presentation. Let's say we start in North Carolina. And Tim, if you want to click the forward button, you should see this is so cool. I don't know how they did this, my co-presenters, but we'll start in Mexico City. From there, we'll travel south to Buenos Aires. These are our 2 past cases in blue. Then we'll go back north to Colombia, which is in green. And then we'll finish with our future cases first in northeastern Brazil and then in Sao Paulo. So if we go to the first case study, this is the first one that I learned about early in my career in Mexico City. There's a lot of history here. This is the famous 18th of March refinery by Pemex. Pemex is the oil conglomerate of Mexico. This was one of the first refineries in Latin America, and it was a real behemoth. Operated for many, many decades, did a lot of social and economic good in Mexico City, but massively contaminated its environment. Mexico City had the worst smog on the planet, according to many in Latin America and the world. And the government saw that it was completely unsustainable by the 70s and 80s, and from night to day shut it down. This was a real shock to Mexico and Latin America. There was no closure plan at that point, or just maybe a conceptual one. There are no remediation technologies available to the Mexican government. But despite that, somehow, that closure, and if you go to the next few slides, or the next slide, pardon, there's a photo album here. The government figured it out with full engagement of the stakeholders. So this is what it looked like on top at closure. There was an immediate improvement in quality of life and air quality in Mexico City. It took 2 decades to remediate it, most of that done with very early remediation technologies, things like manual labors, lots of people with shovels and pickaxes and wheelbarrows. Very few advanced remediation technologies that you're probably hearing a lot about in this conference. And a sustainable endpoint was achieved. You can see it at the bottom of this slide, and you saw it on the previous slide. This massive brownfield is now one of the most visited parks in Mexico. It's got all kinds of attractions. It's got museums. It's delivering a clear social and economic value in addition to its environmental value to the citizens of Mexico City. So we take as our pointer here that when we evaluate the environmental future of our region, we should be able to achieve the same types of results, if not better. We'll go to the next case study all the way down to Buenos Aires, Argentina. This is the second sustainable remediation project that we know of on a large scale, and it is the Port of Buenos Aires. The Port of Buenos Aires is more than 500 years old, if you can imagine that. It was highly, highly contaminated, and it had become a blight for the city. It had fallen out of use. It was a center of all kinds of crime and refuse. There were open trash piles and waste piles that were burning. It was clearly unsustainable for the citizens of Buenos Aires. Same situation with the Pemex refinery in Mexico City. And in the early 80s, the government decided they had to do something about this. We have another photo log in the next slide. You can see some historic pictures, and I actually visited this with my family when I was 4. And what it looked like when I went there is on the bottom right. Abandoned warehouses. The water was so contaminated, it was actually on fire. It was a real mess. What's notable about this case, and we'll see this in the next case, is that the government and the stakeholders had no money to clean this site up. And it was an extremely expensive cleanup in the billions of dollars. What they did was they came up with a plan to convert it to an economic and residential district. If you go, I'm sorry, we can see at the top right, the plan is in green. They sold this plan to investors and to stakeholders, and were able to, over 20 years, fund the cleanup. And now the port is an amazing economic center for the city in Argentina. It's the highest real estate in the country, and if you ever get the chance to go there, you should, because there are all kinds of restaurants and museums and cultural attractions. So this is another successful case in our environmental past that we take pointers from. Now we're going to shift gears and look at a case study in Bogota, Colombia, and we'll give this a minute to load up. There's a YouTube video that you're seeing right now. Nicole Latin America is watching this very closely, because this is one of our most complex problems, surface water pollution. All of our major rivers in Latin America are highly polluted. We do not use them. We can't use them. And finally, the former mayor of Bogota, who you just saw talking, came up with this idea that if we clean up the water in the river And you can see some of these moving images are highly contaminated. This is a complete dead zone. Then we can take these open riparian areas that you see on the video and make use of them. They're not used now because of the snow, the vectors, open waste piles. And we can donate those to developers, such as was done in these cases that you'll see from Europe and North America. And those developers, in addition for receiving that land, fund the cleanup of the land. So this is a sophisticated funding mechanism in a region where there is really no funding to perform this type of cleanup, where we're continually challenged to bring contaminated lands back into full use. This project is underway. The treatment centers that have to first treat the water that is 60% completely untreated going into the river have to be built first by 2025. We expect that the land will be decontaminated, and then we hope that this will become a case, such as rivers in the United States and Europe, that are vibrant economic centers that everyone in the city can use, that generate social good and economic good. So we're going to talk about a few case studies now in Brazil. And Tim, if you want, you can go ahead and shut that video down. And keep in mind that these past cases have threads from them that should run through the case studies that you're going to see that represent our environmental future. We're first going to hear from Maria about a Corteva case in northeastern Brazil that she is leading, that tries to fit all of this together: social good, environmental good, and economic good. So Maria, floor is yours.
Thank you, James. So this fourth case study that I wanted to talk about is located in Camaçari, Brazil. The site is called Area P, and here we're going to talk a little bit about the innovative, technical, and social approach that we had to do there. Before I start with the case study, I wanted to give a little bit of background of the site. So the site is located in one of the largest petrochemical poles in Latin America. The operation started back in 1987 with a variety of crop protection and chemical manufacturers. And back in the time, there was no regulation. So all the waste was stored on site. And for many years, these unregulated waste from not only from this site, from several sites around the area, led to soil and groundwater contamination. Coupled with that, we have a complex geology and we have lack of resources. And when I talk about lack of resources, I talk about we don't have equipment, we don't have material, we don't have skilled personnel to do this. So this leads to a very complicated case to solve. So if you want to go to the next slide, please. When we talk about the social aspect, we have to remember that social is one of the triple bottom lines of sustainability. The social dimension is comprised into four areas or components to account for the overlap with the environment and the economic benefits, as well as the social individual itself. With that in mind, so we have four dimensions: the social economic, the social environment, the social individual, and the social institutional. And with that, we can start thinking about a social concept site model. To help us, we have, for example, SURF. And SURF has come up with 10 main societal impact categories to help evaluate the social dimension of sustainable remediation. So we have the 10 categories, and we also have the indicators and metrics to qualitative and quantitative assess the negative and positive social impacts. The one that we chose here is the metric called economic vitality, and the metrics to evaluate this are contracting local, investing in skilled training and education, and incorporating redevelopment. And the reason why we chose this one to talk about here is because it is really similar and matched pretty well with one of the aspirations that we had for this site. One of the aspiration was use local resources as people and material to implement the project and provide training opportunity. This was just a dream, and we didn't know how to do that. It was really hard. So if you move to the next slide, James, do you want to help us explain how brain drain, brain gain, and brain circulation helped us here in this project?
Sure, I'd be happy to. One of the limitations we have in the region is that we don't have a technical resource base. Most cases, we have to import labor. We have to import high-level expertise from outside of our region. And that is not especially effective or efficient or long-term. So what we've tried to do here is combat what we call brain drain, where talented young practitioners leave Brazil and work on problems outside of their country, thereby creating brain gain in those countries. Where we most need it is here in our region. So this is an actual term that was written in a paper a few years ago. We're trying to promote brain circulation, where we have folks like Maria, who hail from a certain country, are interested in solving those problems, reside outside of Brazil, but still have the opportunity to bring the benefit of her training to bear on our problems. That has all kinds of positives for us in boosting the careers of those folks, in bringing better value to us, and that they continue to work on our problems, and boosting the economic value of the areas that they're working in, both in their country of residence and the countries where they hail from and do their work. So this, as you said, Maria, was just a dream. We didn't know how to do it, but we're on the right track, and you're a testament to that. You're going to talk about the technical approach now that you've come up with for this site now, right?
Correct. So Tim, if you can move to the next slide. I can say from my experience that this project has invested in people since they start. But if you want to give me a timeline, we can start talking back in 2014 when Paola Barreto, a former employee of the site, went to Clemson University to work on her master research, and she started doing some research about Area P. When she was done in 2016, me, as also a former employee, joined the research team in Clemson, and we both studied the biodegradation of contaminants present in the area, both in aerobic and anaerobic ways. But when I finished in 2018, it didn't stop there. I still work with the site very closely. This photo that you can see in the bottom is us. We went there last year when we all could travel. We helped the local people to set up some microcosms. And nowadays we have daily meetings and weekly meetings as they need to continue the microcosm studies in Brazil. Since 2016, Mariana Favero, she did her master's in Brazil, and she's our manager for the field studies. She has been working on investigation, so shallow and deep investigation. She's also working on a conceptual site model and develop a very nice leapfrog model so we can understand better how the underneath happens or where our contamination is. Back in Clemson, so since 2020, Ling Ling Mu has started her postdoc in source isolation. We've been trying to remediate the source and manage the plume in a very cost-effective way. And as soon as this model is more robust and developed, we all plan to work on the real field implementation of that. So if you want to move to the next one, please. James, if you want to help me close this and how challenging it is and what are our remediation outcomes for that, that would be great.
Okay, sure. This is your project. I'll try. So it's clear we've made this social investment. This is, let's say, the home of these young scientists that you just heard about. This is their project. And they come up with something completely crazy, but it's super exciting. First thing we're going to do is isolate all the groundwater at this site. What does that mean? We artificially and passively control the groundwater with a connection of wells, perhaps connected with siphons, that would control the groundwater by elevating it across the site relative to groundwater around it. So nothing comes in, nothing goes out. We don't know how to do this. There's a patent that's quite old. It's never been tested to our knowledge. That's why Ling Min and Ron Falte at Clemson University are carefully modeling this for us. What does that permit us to do? We can, if the source zones within the site are completely isolated passively, we're going to skip detailed secondary source characterization. This will save us between 5 and 7 years of time. We're going to go directly to remediation based on Paola and Maria's research. We basically will have a pot at that point. We'll inject amendments, bioremedial amendments, perhaps abiotic amendments. We're going to stir the pot and let it cook, skipping all characterization. We don't know where all the secondary sources are, but we're isolated. None of that mass is going off-site, and we have no mass from our neighbors coming off-site. So that's a dream. It's a real vision. We have to see that it works. The team is working hard on that. With this case study, we're putting together the best societal investment in people that we can make and technologies that are innovative that they are coming up with. So really exciting. Thank you, Maria. We're going to move to one final case study that also combines that social concern with technical and economic concerns. And this one's going to be a real challenge. So I'm happy that we have Luciana, our executive secretary, to tell us about Jurubatuba.
Yeah, thank you, James. So this is the last case study. This is for Jurubatuba. This is a project that I'm really, really proud to be working in. This is a project that has multiple stakeholders involved with different interests involved, which generates a lot of conflict, various contamination sources, and the contamination itself reach bedrock. So these are the main challenges for this case. And the outcome for a case like that, of course, the technical issues are also a problem, but the main issues we have there is the different interests that are involved, the conflicts that are generated with different stakeholders involved in a project. So our key outcome was to assure communication and finding common goals to match the expectations of all the people involved. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So let's start talking a bit about Jurubatuba. Jurubatuba is an area in the city of São Paulo, which is in the southeast of Brazil. It is now considered one of the most critical in terms of cases of contaminated areas in the whole state. If you could please go to the next slide, just to have like a bit of context in the area. This is the headquarters for numerous industries since the 20th century, most especially for the chemical and metallurgical sector. And in the beginning of this last century, in the beginning of 2000s, the State Environmental Company has confirmed and identified different points of contamination in the region, which resulted in the banning of several underground water extraction wells. Up to 2007, we had 84 areas that were declared contaminated, which includes industrial areas and gas stations. And the main compounds of interest there are halogenated solvents, but in reality, we have a whole plethora of different compounds, which is really difficult to find the sources of these compounds because we have multiple sources, and we don't know the owners of these compounds. We don't know which owners polluted what part. So it's really difficult to have a solution for this case, and it's being dealt with for almost 20 years in the state. So this is clearly a complex contamination case, mainly for those three main factors, which is the impossibility of determining a single person responsible for the contamination of the area, as I just said, the high diversity of sources of the plume formed today, and of course the different interests and conflict generated by these different interests of multiple parties involved. So a case like that that hasn't been really solved in almost 20 years, it really needs innovative solutions. And this year, the Seminário Ecos Brasil, the Ecos Brasil seminar, decided to tackle this case. Just for context, this seminar is one that happened since 2002. It's a really important event in the Latin America. And in 2018, altogether with Sustran, we found out through a survey that most of the people involved in the seminar thought that NGOs can play a really important role in building trust among project stakeholders. So what we decided for this year is to tackle the challenge and create an accelerator designed to fill a current gap in this area, in the contaminated area sector, especially for complex cases. So how do we do this? As I said before, we really have various technical issues in the area, but the main issue there is to put together all those interests of different people and have them having a common goal. So we decided to put all those people together, the main local stakeholders, to talk and to find this goal together through 6 workshops along the year that started in March. And we decided to use the SSP methodology, which is the Site Strategic Planning methodology. Is a methodology that is being used for many cases in industries. And basically what it does is to define together, we have to design together the target, what we aim for the project. We have to identify and understand the influencing factors and key conditions, variables, data gaps, and then we can set the strategies and try to have a roadmap for the area. And that's what we want in this event. We want to present in the seminar, which is in this October, we want to present a roadmap for the area in which all those stakeholders agree with, and that we can try then to solve this for many years in the future. So Tim, if you could go to the last slide, please. Yeah, this one. So I'd like now to invite everyone to get to know this event. This year it's happening from the 28th to 30th of October, and James is very involved in this event. So back at you, James, to explain a bit better.
Thank you very much. So this last case study combines everything that we've talked about. Complex social impact, complex economic considerations, technical challenges, I believe like none other that we're currently dealing with in Brazil. But what is really unique about this is we're going to open this conversation to the world. And that's what this seminar is all about. Never done this before, never seen it done. Instead of having a series of presentations on technologies and other items of interest, we're going to put this problem to the attendees of this conference. We're going to present our approach. We're working on it now in those workshops that Luciana mentioned, but then we want to hear from you. This is your opportunity to give us feedback based on all your knowledge and understanding. And this EnvrioSummit has many, many people who might be able to help us through feedback that we might receive to influence this important case in Brazil. The NGO solution, if it works in this case, could work in others. And we have many such contaminated areas in Latin America. So if you have interest, please join us. We'd be happy to have you for this virtual conference later this year in Brazil. You can contact any one of us if you want more information, but Luciana is probably the best point of contact. You can get into touch with her via Nicole Latin America or the Ecos Institute in Brazil. We hope to see you there. Thank you.
A couple of years ago, we had the opportunity to go to China, and it was really working with a company based in Toronto. And Michael Wang and his team took us over there, and we went to 3 different cities, and Michael Wang and his team actually filled the room. It was just phenomenal on what is going on in China and some of their environmental challenges, and just really interacting with the environmental professional there in China. Anyway, we went to Beijing, great crowd in Beijing, and then we hopped on rail and railed down to Nanjing. And one of our speakers later this morning will talk to you about, he actually spent a year in Nanjing. That's Roger Brewer from Hawaii. But anyway, here we are there in China, Beijing, Nanjing, and then we went over on to Shanghai. And so we had 3 great workshops. Excellent environmental professionals there. They're really just doing everything they can to soak up the different technologies and really what the rest of the world has been doing. So I know many of you are watching there in China, and so I wish I was there with you. But that is the extent of Asia that we've been to. We were planning on going to Taiwan and also Japan, but again, the pandemic has changed our plans. Well, Mr. Li was going to speak from the Chinese government, and some things really kind of came into his schedule, especially in light of the pandemic. And so I asked Michael Wang, who took us to China a couple of years ago, to really give you a better understanding of what is going on across China. He's very skilled at what he does, and so again, grab your pens and your notepad and take some notes, because Michael Wang's got a really good presentation for you.
I'm Michael from Auckland Environmental Solutions. First, I'd like to thank the EnvrioSummit for such a great platform, connecting environmental professionals around the globe, and for giving me the opportunity to share my view on the Chinese environmental market. I've been working as a business consultant on connecting North American and Asian environmental markets since 2015, and I've been involved in a number of projects from strategy to marketing to execution. So today I'd like to take this opportunity to share my perspective and experience on the Chinese market. I will give a high-level overview of the overall market and talk about the policy drivers, market trends, and some areas of immediate and future opportunities in the major environmental sectors, including air, water, waste management, and remediation. It's by no means a comprehensive review, just some highlights I want to share with the audience today. So a little bit of background about my company before we go in. ALCO is an international business consultancy based in Canada. We're specialized and well-positioned to support clients in clean tech for business growth, market penetration, and business strategies in Asia. We provide consulting services in business intelligence and strategy, marketing and sales, as well as project support. We analyze market data trends, manage database for different environmental sectors, and have built a strong branding and marketing. We have built a strong branding and marketing network with over 15,000 subscribers. First of all, I'd like to give an overview of the Chinese environmental market. So as we're all aware, China has gone through a very fast industrialization and urbanization phase during the last 30 to 40 years and have achieved phenomenal economic growth. However, as a result of the developing cities, building infrastructure, and industrial activities, it also comes with pollution. China's environmental issues are highly complex due to large population, high density, complexity of industrial activities, and the lack of strong environmental regulation and enforcement during the early years. And often those environmental issues are of great magnitude. But as people's living standard improve, they start to pay attention to the environment. And then China has formed a new vision of ecological civilization. So during the last decade, the government has set out a series of very aggressive pollution control action plans, along with strict Chinese EPA policies and standards. I will touch base along this presentation. As a result of the complex environmental issues and aggressive action plans, the Chinese environmental market requires systematic and comprehensive solutions. Overall, the market is growing rapidly and is constantly evolving and changing. So I will talk about in the next 2 slides. So in terms of growth rate, the Chinese environmental market size almost doubled in the last 5 years, with approximately 2 trillion RMB in 2019. This year, with the COVID-19 pandemic, it is still expected to grow at this rate. So it is a significant market with attractive growth. On the other side, comparing the percentage of environmental protection investment in GDP to developed countries, the ratio is still low in China. So there is still large growth potential as China is committed to improving its environment. Regarding the industry structure, there's over 30,000 environmental companies in China. Majority are small to medium companies in water and monitoring sectors. The industry went through a lot of changes, especially during the last 2-3 years. Overall, the trend is fewer small to medium companies, more large enterprises with strengths in engineering and investment capability. The big players in this industry tend to be publicly traded, state-owned, or a mix of both. There's a strong trend for state background capital to take ownership in publicly traded environmental companies. And as a result, the stock market for environmental companies in China went through a lot of changes in the last 2 years as well. Like other countries, the environmental industry is highly policy driven, and as Chinese environmental policies are quite aggressive, each sector evolves and goes through different phases more quickly than other markets. So this slide is a very nice illustration from a Deloitte report of different environmental sectors and market size and their phases. The investment value is a capital budget allocated for 2016 to 2020, and the operation value is the estimated annual budget for operation and maintenance for 2020. So you can see municipal wastewater, water environment sectors consist the largest proportion of the entire market size. This also confirms with the previous slide that water pollution control field has the largest number of environmental companies and as well as largest number of environmental professionals working in the industry. I will talk about these trends in some major areas in the next several slides. First of all, air pollution control market. So the Air Pollution Prevention Control and Action Plan came out in 2013. It is the very first high-level environmental action plan in its true sense. The primary target was PM10 and PM2.5 reduction. Power plants emission treatment was a major measures in this plan, along with closure, limitation, upgrade of many industrial activities, as well as vehicle use limit. So on average, air quality in China has become a lot better since then, and over 80% power sector emission projects have been completed. And that's why you see it is in the recession phase in the last slide. The 3-year battle plan for blue skies came out in 2018 as a follow-up, which primarily targets PM2.5 and VOC's reduction and deals with non-power industries such as steel, cement, chemical, painting, printing, and so on. And it is still in growing stage. Here's some areas that I personally think will be seeing high growth in the next few years. I just want to emphasize first, for the sake of time, I can only highlight a few that I think are important. There's plenty of niche market and applications out there still. Secondly, it is only my personal opinion based on the interactions I have had with different individuals and organizations and the requests we received. So for air pollution control, steel plants ultra-low emission, fugitive emission control, for example, VOCs from semiconductor industry. Emission collection and pretreatment is also important. So that's more engineering design and process know-how rather than product and solution. And VOC is a key contaminant target, so guaranteed reduction through oxidizers are the most accepted method of treatment. And concentrators are usually used together with oxidizers. On to the water market. Action plan and prevention control for water pollution was announced in 2015, and that's why you see the water sectors are either in growth phase or mature phase, with the exception of rural wastewater. But water areas, including municipal water, wastewater distribution networks, water environment, industrial wastewater, and rural wastewater are still of the largest market size combined. They consist of over half of the entire industry. As follow-ups for the 2015 action plan, the Chinese EPA announced a series of industrial wastewater standards, as well as a new 3-year action plan to improve quality and efficiency for municipal wastewater. The new plan calls for plant network water body systematic management instead of viewing them as different entities. This results in larger project size, higher capital investment, and broader skill set for environmental companies. And rural wastewater treatment, as we mentioned, is a new area of interest in the last several years. It requires cost-effective, stable, and automated solutions. Here's some hot topics in water industry, in my opinion. First, watershed governance. Like I said, treating the entire water bodies and facilities as a whole. Second, smart and digital water, which we got involved quite a bit. So water systems in China are still in the digitalization phase. So there's still a lot of room to go from smart water. Technologies such as cost-effective sensors, cloud computing, digital twin, big data, and AI are still much needed as China continues to invest in smart water. For industrial wastewater, one of the major challenges is zero liquid discharge. Cost-effective evaporation methods and salt separation methods are still needed. So industries such as oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, chemicals are still looking for those solutions. Lastly, sludge treatment and disposal, which used to be considered under waste management. Now it's usually considered part of the water projects. So as landfill reach their top capacity, and incineration facilities usually do not want to accept the wastewater sludge due to low heat value. So solutions that can efficiently dewater the sludge to below 30% water content and recover energy out of it and safely dispose the final sludge at the end is much needed. So for the waste management market, it's very popular and growing very quickly in China during the last 2 years, mostly because the government announced the Zero Waste City initiative in 2019 and launched domestic waste classification last year as well. And over 40 cities are in the first phase of this plan, and with more cities to follow. The initiative targets to set up waste management facilities and systems based on waste classification in over 300 cities by 2025. And also the new law for waste management became effective this week. So as we said, overall the landfill capacity has reached maximum level, and China is not planning to build a lot more landfills because limited land. Different regions have invested heavily in incineration facilities. And the last 10 years, people in the industry also call it golden years for waste incineration. But now, as of last year, as the waste gets classified into different categories, more solutions are developing to treat different types of waste separately and more efficiently. Overall, smart solid waste management and conversion to energy recovery, recycling is needed. Some opportunities in waste management. First, like we said, domestic waste classification, so efficient ways of classifying and transporting, handling waste. And another is energy recovery. So, for example, organic waste to energy. So kitchen waste, gardening waste, feedstock waste, they're all needs to be treated smartly, efficiently to recover energy and safely disposal. Industrial waste, recycling and upcycling, there's a lot of opportunities in this area, such as plastic, metals, tires, scrap cars, electronics, hazardous waste disposal and incineration, lead batteries recycling, and construction waste management and recycling they all have a lot of opportunities in the next several years. On to the remediation, which I will talk a bit more. Even though remediation market is only a very small portion of the entire environmental market in China, it is still drawing a lot of attention and interest. In summary, the Chinese remediation market is emerging and is still in the initial phase, but it has a lot of potential to grow. The Soil Pollution Prevention and Control Law became effective in 2019. So last year was really considered the official beginning of this market, even though there's many projects and investment during the last decade. The market has achieved fairly good growth rate since 2015, but has definitely not reached exponential growth yet. There's a number of reasons that remediation market in China is still in its initial phase. One major reason being the soil pollution prevention law only became effective last year. Another reason is there's still many uncertainties in liability, business model, and funding mechanism. Basically, the polluters pay principle still applies. Just in some cases, it's difficult to interpret it and determine. Like Western countries, remediation is highly related to land use. But what's unique about China, it's land ownership and permit structure. So I'm not going to go into details about that, but generally, there's 3 types of land use permit: residential and commercial, agricultural, and industrial. Remediation projects are typically driven by land development, so turning one type of permit into another. So luckily, I've seen some projects where the real estate developer is going to pay for remediation, and I think we'll see more of that business model coming in the next few years. Another uncertainty is the level of contamination across the country. So that's why there's a lot of site evaluation projects right now. For remediation projects, EPC is the most common model. Contractors are typically either specialized remediation companies or are generally are general turnkey engineering companies. A few remediation companies are relatively established, both in technology and company sides, but more companies are joining this field, especially the large state-owned environmental engineering companies. And consulting companies tend to be less competitive in this market. The integration of different technologies, I think, is a key to successful remediation projects and successful remediation companies. The total remediation market size was 15 billion RMB in China. And remediation projects counts for 80%, and the rest are mostly consulting projects on evaluation. However, there's a lot more smaller evaluation projects, like we said, than remediation projects. So opportunities in the remediation field, essentially there's lots of opportunities here because it's only in its initial phase. The most important area of remediation market is contaminated industrial sites. So land development of those contaminated sites, from contamination ranging from petroleum, chlorinated solvent, chemicals, coking, heavy metals, etc. There's many projects in those areas. And like we said, site evaluation is an important aspect for those projects. And then chemical injection, in situ oxidation and reduction for light and medium level of contamination are frequently used right now. And also heavy metal stabilization is very popular. Thermal technologies in general are quite popular in China. So for in situ thermal, conductive heating, gas heating, electric heating are all being used. And ex situ thermal, both direct and indirect thermal desorption are being used. Vapor extraction for VOC contaminant sites, I think those will have a lot more applications in the next several years. For farmland, the most important is pollution source control and evaluation for safe use rather than remediation. Another area that's growing very quickly is the mining sites. So open mines, ecological restoration, mine site subsidized restoration, tailing ponds management are all important areas. And lastly, groundwater monitoring is also, there's a lot of projects in there. So overall, China has less experience in solving groundwater remediation compared to developed countries, especially for industrial sites and mining sites. So there's a lot of opportunities to grow in there. So after talking about the different markets, I want to briefly talk about market penetration and soft landing process. So at ALCO, we divide this process into 6 different steps. First, technology demand identification, and then market intelligence and technology screening. Technology assessment, so comparing your technology to the domestic available technologies. Next will be business strategy and deal negotiation, so finding the partner, setting up the deal, and execute on that. Next is market acclimation, so which I will talk about later. And then lastly, technology soft landing. So there's a number of collaboration and business models to choose from. Equipment and service supply, OEM, working with a product distributor, project collaboration, license to technology, joint development, or joint venture or M&A. So once you have set up a strategy to penetrate this market, the next important step would be to let the market adopt the technology and quickly scale up. So pilot test validation are very, very important, and demo projects are also important. And then usually as per evaluation is required. Then the next key point would be to establish a professional team, a local team that knows the market, knows technology, and can execute projects. Product certification and market recognition are also important, especially for product-oriented companies. I'd like to share some barriers and insights for market penetration. And first, the scope of work and then the enterprise skills are very different in China and Western countries. Chinese environmental companies are usually big and they can cover a lot of different areas and services. However, the Western environmental companies are usually unique and specialized in one area. Technology adaptation is very important for the market penetration. So what works in the home country may not work exactly very well in China. So it needs a time to adapt to the local market and to the local project situations. And a lot of the cases that we experience and really we provide value are kind of bringing the different business ecosystem together and then set up a mutually benefit model from both sides. And last, mutual trust, cultural language differences are also important aspects for this process. Some insights or recommendation for this market penetration process. First, a comprehensive feasibility and cost analysis is usually recommended and would be very helpful for you to understand the market and value chain, and then so that you can set up a right strategy for this market. Second, technology due diligence. So basically comparing to your technology to what's available locally and understand the pros and cons and understand the competitiveness. Next would be to set up a win-win business model. So no matter what industry or what product service you are offering, it's probably you have to work with local partners. Mutual benefit model is very important for the success. Plus, you can always leverage capital resources for this process. Thank you for listening. This is just my experience and observations on the Chinese market, and I'd be happy to talk with you further on that. Thank you.
Well, there are a couple more continents that we've covered here this morning on day 2. But now it's time to take a break. And so wherever you are, again, on the planet, whether you're right here at the Sheraton in Charlotte, let's just stretch your legs, get up, walk around, take 30 minutes, grab some coffee, because Lord knows we need some more coffee. Grab some coffee, and we'll get back to, let's see, a couple of more places on the planet you don't want to miss when we come back from the break.